racial movement in India, partition independence. Should the war be supported by Indians 1939 to 1942? When the World War started in 1939, most of the provinces of India were governed by the Congress ministries. The British government had accepted the principle that the right is rule themselves must be given to Indians to an extent. The Government of India Act was passed in 1935 by the British Parliament. A difficult question arose before the Congress leaders. Britain had not even consulted them before deciding that India will participate in the war. The Congress was torn in its mind over the question. Most Congress leaders were opposed to Hitler, Mussolini, and the ideology of fascism. They were determined to resist the fascist drive to conquer other sovereign nations. The Congress accepted that the British would see their double standards in the expectations that India should support them in fighting the fascists but not giving the India full freedom. The British realized this, but at the same time it was hard for them to accept that they will really have to dismantle the empire they had built. The British were willing to give Indian dominant status under the British Crown sometime after the war. The British objected to this by saying that they have to also protect the interest of several other communities in India. The Congress was upset at the obstinacy of the British and decided to walk out of the provincial governments. The government had to give itself special wartime power to maintain law and order to be able to focus on winning the war. Through 1940 to 41, the Congress organized a series of individual satyagrahas to pressure the ruler to promise freedom once the war had ended. Who represents the people of the country? British were desperate with the Indian people revolting against their rule. The British actively raised doubts about the right of the Congress to represent the people of the country. Now they followed the divide and rule policy more vigorously. Towards this end, the British government supported and encouraged the plans of the Muslim League and downplayed the importance of the Congress. The Muslim League. This was a party formed in 1906. Till the 1930s, it mainly represented the interest of the Muslim landlords of UP and did not have much mass support. It had demanded that the British should create separate seats in all councils for which only Muslims would vote. The Congress had accepted this logic and separate electorates were implemented from 1909. When the provincial governments were elected in 1937, the League won 102 of the 482 Muslim seats in the country. In 1937, the Muslim League got only 4.4% of the total Muslim vote cast in the elections. But the situation changed in the next 10 years. In 1946, when the elections were held again for the provincial and the central assemblies, the League succeeded in winning the Muslim seats decisively. The League pointed out many issues and blamed Congress of intensivity. For example, the Congress refused to form the coalition government with the League in the United Provinces, where it too had won many seats. The Congress had banned its members taking a membership of the League. The League could thus create the impression that the Congress was basically a Hindu party and did not want to share power with the Muslims. The Hindu Mahasabha and the RSS. These organizations wished to unite all Hindus, overcome the division of caste and sect, and reform their social life. They also gave out the message that India was the land of the Hindus who were in a majority. Many congressmen were also impressed with the activities of these organizations. Congress tried hard to build a secular understanding among its members. Congress argued that Hindus and Muslims were not people of two different nations but part and parcel of one Indian nation. However, the British were eagerly listening to the fears of the League about Hindu domination and suggesting ways to make the Muslims secure. The Pakistan Resolution. The need to make special arrangements for governing regions where Muslims were in a majority was being felt by the many people. The name Pakistan or Pak-Stan was coined by a Punjabi Muslim student at Cambridge, Chaudhry Rahmat Ali, in pamphlets written in 1933 and 1935. This young student desired a separate national status for this new entity. As noted before, the failure of Congress to address the fears of domination fanned by Muslim League and the policy of divide and rule followed by the British changed the political climate. On 23 March 1940, the League moved a resolution demanding a measure of autonomy for the Muslim majority areas of the subcontinent. The ambitious resolution never mentioned partition or Pakistan. However, in later years, it came to time called the Pakistan Resolution. It must be noted that many alternatives were being considered by the people to solve the issues raised by the League. New nation state of Pakistan was one among these alternatives. As discussions and negotiations started and stopped, the idea of opting for separate nation of Pakistan started gaining around from 1940 to 1946. The League was able to convince Muslim masses of the benefits and the need for a separate nation. Who will make the British quit India? 1941 Japan had begun expanding into the Southeast Asia and there was clear threat to Indian territories as well. In the spring of 1942, Prime Minister Churchill was persuaded to send one of his ministers, Sir Stafford Cripps, to India to try and forge a compromise with Gandhiji and the Congress. Talks broke down, however, after the Congress insisted that the Viceroy should first appoint an Indian as a defense member of his Executive Council. After the failure of the Cripps mission, Mahatma Gandhi decided to launch his third major movement against British rule. This was Quit India campaign, which began in August 1942. Although Gandhiji was jailed at once, younger activists organized strikes and acts of sabotage all over the country in several districts such as Satara in the west of Medinipur in the east. Independent governments were proclaimed. The British responded, with which force yet to took more than a year to suppress the rebellion. The Communist Party of India in the meanwhile decided to support the British war effort. Realizing the danger at a world level, it called the war a people's war. On the contrary, Gandhiji felt that Indians would be able to handle Japan on their own after the British leave India. Subhash Chandra Bose looked at the opportunity made available by the difficulties of the British He said that India's independence was the utmost importance and we could take the help of the Japanese to throw out the British. He went secretly to Germany and then he to Japan and raised an army of Indian soldiers in 1942. However, Gandhi did not agree with the plans of Bose and felt that Japanese cannot be the liberators of India. But Subhash persisted in his chosen path and led an army of Indian soldiers to fight alongside in the Imperial Army of Japan against the British for almost 3 years. Subhash Chandra Bose INA was defeated by the British Army. In the aftermath of this, it is not certain whether Bose disappeared or died. The popular upsurge in 1946 to 1948, the Indian soldiers of INA were imprisoned and the British decided to punish them. A trial of INA soldiers was begun to court-martial them for being traitors to army and hanging them to death in punishment. Unrest and unhappiness of discontent kept erupting in different parts of India as INA trials proceeded. In this popular upsurge of nationalist consequences, the issue of Hindu-Muslim identity and separatist politics often became unimportant. On 18th February 1946, the Guards or Ratings of the Royal Indian Nation in Bombay Harbour came out on hunger strike to protest against the bad food and behavior of their British officers. The strike rapidly spread to other naval men on Bombay shore and to all the naval bases in India. Hundreds of students, both Hindus and Muslims, came out on the streets of Bombay to support the cause and clashed with the police and the army. On February 22nd, 3 lakh mill workers put down their tools in Bombay and fought for 2 days violently on the streets with the police and the army. An agitation was started in the Bengal by small and poor peasants who took land of a bigger landlords to cultivate. The demand that their share of harvest should be increased to 2 portions out of 3 instead of half or even less that was given to them at the time. This was called the Tebgha movement and was led by the Provincial Kisan Sabha. In Hyderabad, the Communist Party led a massive movement of farmers of Telangana region. The Telangana farmers came out to oppose the large landowners and demanded the debts of farmers be written off, bonded labor be supported and land be distributed to those who tilled it. Another armed revolt of peasants took place in Travancore in Punarpara, Vaivalar. Muslim League and Congress negotiation for transfer of power. When political negotiations between the top leaders began again in 1945, the British agreed to create an entirely Indian Central Executive Council, except for the Viceroy and the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, as a preliminary step towards full independence. Discussions about the transfer of power broke down due to the Jinha's unrelentingly demand that the League should have an absolute right to choose all the Muslim members of the Executive Council. This demand was not acceptable to others. The Congress Party had the support of most nationalist Muslims. The Unionist Party of Punjab, which had a large number of Muslim members, did not endorse Muslim League's demand. In 1946, elections were held by the provincial governments. The Muslim League won all 30 reserved constituencies in the centre and 442 out of 509 seats in the provinces. It had got more than 86% of the Muslim votes in 1946. The Congress swept the general constituencies, capturing over 91% of the non-Muslim vote. A possible alternative to partition. In March 1946, the British cabinet sent a three-member mission to Delhi to examine the League demand and to suggest a suitable political framework for a free India. This cabinet mission toured the country for 3 months and recommended a lost three-tier confederation, but India was to remain united. Initially, all the major parties accepted this plan, but the agreement was short-lived because it was based on mutually opposed interpretations of the plan. The Muslim League decided that the demands cannot be met through the discussions, but it must ask the people to come out on the streets. It decided on direct action with winning its Pakistan demand and announced 16th August 1946 as Direct Action Day. On this day, riots broke out in Calcutta, lasting several days and leaving several thousands people dead. It was in the background of mass violence in 1947 March. The Congress High Command agreed for dividing the Punjab into two halves. Congress also agreed the application of similar principle to Bengal. In February 1947, Wavell was replaced as Viceroy by Mountbatten. Mountbatten called one last round of talks to move ahead. When these two proved, he announced that British India would be freed but also divided. The formal transfer of power from the British government to Pakistan would be done on 14th and to India it would be done on 15th August 1947. This resolution was the only workable solution to the end the year of riots, bloodshed and hatred that was engulfing the people. Partition and migration. With the creation of a Muslim nation, Pakistan, a painful and unimaginable situation arose before the many people. They felt anger and hatred against each other for being forced to move out of their homes, villages and cities. Around 1.5 crore people, both Hindu and Muslim, were displaced. They became refugees, lived in relief camps, moved out of trains to find new homes. Gandhiji moved amongst riot-hit people in camps and hospitals, spreading the message of peace and brotherhood. This was not freedom and Swaraj he had worked so hard to achieve. At the initiative of Gandhiji and Nehru, the Congress now passed a resolution on the rights of minorities. The party had never accepted the two-nation theory, forced against its will to accept the partition. It still believed that India is a land of many religions and many races and must remain so. Whatever be the situation in Pakistan, India would be a democratic secular state where all citizens enjoy full rights and are equally entitled to the protection of the state, irrespective of the religion to which they belong. Assassination of Gandhiji. Gandhiji, the father of this nation, was trying to bring peace and strife torn locally. On 15th August 1947, the old man was unhappy with this massive communal frenzy in northwestern India and tried to calm the fears, yet sections of the people were annoyed with Gandhi and his role in Indian politics then. They disturbed his all-religion prayer meetings many times. Finally, less than 6 months after independence, the father of the nation felt to 3 bullets while going to his all-religion prayer in the evening on 30th January 1948. His assassin, Nathuram Godse, felt the scene of crime and was later apprehended at Bombay. He was once a member of Hindu Mahasabha, and this led to wave the antipathy against this organization. Consequently, on 14th February 1948, All India Hindu Mahasabha decided to suspend its politics work and concentrate on real organizational work instead. Integration of states. There existed around 550 princely states which enjoyed different levels of sovereignty but were under the British paramount power. As the British were to withdraw from India, these princely states were to become independent. They were asked to decide if people wanted to join India, Pakistan, or remain independent. The ordinary people of the princely states had become aware of democratic rights through participation in Prajamandal movements. The Congress supported the movements of the people of the princely states and declared that they should join India in making the new constitution of the country. Sardar Patel was given charge of this matter in July 1947. He began discussing with the prince the necessity to join India. By 15th August 1947, all states except Kashmir, Hyderabad and Jungad had agreed to sign the instrument of accession with India. These 3 states were also made to join in the next 2 years. The government of the princely states was taken out and the prince were given pension funds called Pivy Purse to meet their personal expenses. Interestingly, in 1971, the government of India abolished the Privy Purses and titles used by the former princely families.
మా వీడియో గనుక మీకు నచ్చినట్లయితే లైక్ చేయండి, షేర్ చేయండి. ఇలాంటి మరిన్ని వీడియోస్ కోసం మా ఛానల్ని సబ్స్క్రైబ్ చేసుకోవడం మాత్రం మర్చిపోకండి. థ్యాంక్ యూ ఫర్ వాచింగ్.